making Easter potatoes, which we're calling them Easter potatoes because I'm making them on Good Friday, and then I'm going to bring them to Easter dinner, and that's Sunday night. They're like a combination between scalloped potatoes and au gratin potatoes, which I always thought were the exact same thing, but apparently I googled it, and scalloped potatoes have a heavy cream or some sort of sauce, while au gratin potatoes have just cheese on top, even though they're both this thinly sliced potatoes, like baked dish kind of a thing. Also growing up, I'm pretty sure all of my siblings, we called this as like a family, but we called au gratin potatoes, which I don't even know if I'm saying that right now, we called them rotten potatoes. So my mom would be like, oh, we're having rotten potatoes and ham for dinner or something. And it took me a very long time to learn that that is not what other people actually call them. So I'm gonna call them like a fancy person's Easter potatoes. Potato hot dish. I don't know, there's so many ways it could go. The overall concept is that we're going to caramelize an onion, then we're going to peel and slice into small slices our raw potatoes, and we're going to toss those in a bowl with some olive oil and rosemary and cayenne pepper and garlic and salt. And then we're going to layer the onion and potato into like our dish. Then we're going to make I think it's a bechamel, like a butter, flour, salt, cheese kind of sauce. Pour that on top and pop it in the oven. That's the overall plan. You should be, right now, preheat your oven to 450 or 400. It doesn't matter. It cooks for 70 to 90 minutes in the oven, so you're just gonna wait until everything's like nice, soft, mushy, giving you the good potato vibes. So we're gonna start by starting our caramelized onion. To cut an onion, I don't know if this is common knowledge, but you leave the furry side, don't know what that's called. You cut off the other side. Let's put this in our little disposal plate. And then you cut it in half this way through the furry side so it holds it all together. Then you're gonna do a little slice, peel the outer rim off. So your furry part is still holding it all together, so you're gonna do that for both sides. Then, essentially your furry part holds it all together, so when you're slicing into your little slices to, chop it up, you don't have to hold it together with your own hand, it just does it for you. So everything is all even and easy to manage, and then you just cut off the furry part, and you are all sliced and good to go. So we're gonna do it again on this side. It's generally recommended to use olive oil when you're caramelizing onions, but I don't carry olive oil in my kitchen because I don't really like it. So we're using vegetable oil, which apparently I need to buy more. We're just gonna toss this in a pot with a little vegetable oil covering the bottom. Toss in our onions and just kind of forget about it on the stove for a while. And you just stir occasionally until they're brown. Very simple. Some people put a couple tablespoons of sugar in their caramelized onions to help the caramelization process happen faster, but I'm not going to do that. I want them to be very simple. Once they start caramelizing a bit, I am going to add a couple tablespoons of butter because everything tastes better with butter. So we'll get that going just on medium. While our onions are caramelizing, we're going to go ahead and peel our potatoes. So I wash my potatoes, as you should. We're going to get them peeled up. And you could leave the skins on. That's really up to you. I was thinking I might do some with the skins, some without. But, for consistency purposes, I might just do all without the skin. It also seems like if you want kids to eat stuff, you shouldn't put the skin on there. I also don't think kids are going to eat this anyway, because theoretically it should be kind of spicy because of the cayenne pepper, and it will have rosemary on it, which means they're going to see green things and think, no, that's not for me. Which is a fair point. There's probably some grandma watching this thinking, why do you take so long to peel potatoes? I don't know. It takes a long time. And I usually just peel stuff onto paper plates and throw it away because I don't want a cleaning project or having to scrape stuff off the cutting board or having a messy cutting board for when, like, if you peel the potato skins onto the cutting board, then you have to clean it off before you start cutting your potatoes, and I don't want to do that. Oh, when we get to our little potato cutting portion, a lot of recipes that I've read for scalloped potatoes use, I believe it's called a mandolin. Basically, it's like a kind of a grater, and you just slice it like this, and it'll make the perfectly even slices that you kind of want. But I don't have one of those, and I also don't have any more room to store any sort of kitchen gadget, so I will not be buying one, even though I did look them up on Amazon. And I decided it was not a wise purchase. We're just gonna try and chop very evenly sliced potatoes. Will it happen? No. Am I capable of making it happen? No, but we're gonna try our best. And it works best if your knife is really sharp and you want them thin, because that's what will make them cook evenly and won't take so long. So like, you could theoretically cut them in pretty hefty chunks, but you'll just have to bake them for an excessively long time. Which, look at this. Like, you can see the light through the potato. That looks great. Honestly, I've already impressed myself. 2 potatoes down, 1 potato to go. And you can just vary this recipe based off of how many people you're gonna be serving, how many potatoes you have. Like, if I only had 2 potatoes, I would just make it with 2 potatoes and just wing it and use the same amount of sauce and call it a day, because who cares? Everything is very flexible with cooking. You don't have to have all the same thing. Like, let's say you're making this and you don't have cayenne pepper or rosemary. Just put garlic and like maybe some thyme or whatever herb you have, or dried rosemary or dried parsley, or who cares, dried basil. There's no real rules. It'll taste good. Okay, our potatoes are cut up, so we'll set those aside. This is the pan I'll be using because I'm taking this to my Aunt Deb's house and I'm tired of leaving pans places, so we're gonna improve that. Okay, great. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll put our potatoes in our bowl, and then we're going to add our seasonings in here and get them situated. I kind of forgot about that. So we'll do that while our onions continue to caramelize. Look at our happy potatoes. Okay, so we're gonna cut up some rosemary. Oh, it smells so good. I always have a tendency to overdo it a little bit with herbs because it just smells so delicious. I should probably wash it. Oh, and I forgot to say, in our caramelized onions, when we right at the end, we're gonna add a little balsamic vinegar to them. That's completely optional, but just makes them extra yummy. So I'm just gonna cut the leaves off of the stems of the rosemary in a very informal way. Just kind of run my knife along them. It doesn't matter. I might end up using the stems, but it only makes kind of less tough, is the theory. Smells. We instantly became pro chefs once we brought out this rosemary because it smells absolutely delicious. There's probably a better way to do this. Do you think I can just pull it off? Yes. That is better. And right now your onions should sound like things are happening to them. Like you can hear the little spurts of oil and stuff. So just check over the table, give them a stir. Mine are starting to get a little tiny bit of color. You can see it. There's a little color on them. We're gonna go ahead and add some butter. I don't know how much this is. 2 tablespoons? We're adding 2 tablespoons of butter. It's optional. My heart says 2 tablespoons. Your heart could say 4. Whatever, or 0, but seems like a bad call. How do we cut this? Oh. So we're just gonna chop up our rosemary. I like it to be pretty fine because I don't think people enjoy just like a sprig of rosemary, but do what you want. Okay, then we're going to add our rosemary to our potatoes. We're gonna add some garlic. Measure with your heart. That's probably 3 or 4 tablespoons. Great. Some cayenne, just a wee, maybe a teaspoon. And some flaky salt, a hefty amount. Then we're gonna give her a hand stir. Oh, we need a little bit of oil. Don't overdo it, otherwise the potatoes won't like cream up with the sauce. They won't soak up the sauce if you give them too much of a barrier of oil. It smells so happy and so Eastery. I love it. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, so this is what we're looking like. Garlicky, seasoned potato goodness. Great. We need to check on our onions. Yum. I'm gonna increase my heat a little bit, get this process moving. Okay, at this point, this is how our onions are looking. So we're getting color. Don't forget, so the brown is the flavor. That's the caramelization. It will make them sweet and delicious. So don't chicken out, just let it happen. We have this pan out for our sauce. I have it on like a medium heat. We're gonna go ahead and add 4 tablespoons of butter. We're gonna let our butter melt. Then we're gonna add in 4 tablespoons of flour. So as a base for our sauce, it's just a 1-to-1 ratio of like your oil to your flour when you're creating the thickening process. So based on however much sauce you want, just add however much of, you know, butter or flour makes sense in that scenario. Our plan here is we're gonna melt our butter, add our flour and our salt. We're gonna whisk it until it creates, I'll show you, like a thicker paste kind of a thing. Our butter is melted. We're gonna 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to whisk it up. Okay, so you're seeing this paste situation. So it automatically soaks it up. And here's the thing about flour. Flour is a raw substance. And it's like it will taste raw. So I can currently smell the flour, and you will be able to smell the flour cooking. And you just want to whisk until it feels cooked. So you'll be able to see what that looks like. And these are our onions. Check them out. They look very good. We're happy. So we're stirring up a storm. We're gonna add about a cup of chicken stock. Maybe that's a 1.5 cups. Our pan is very hot. Then we're going to stir it in until it thickens, and then we will add our cheese. Oh, it's already thickening. Check that out. So we just want it to be creamy and satisfying. I want it a little bit thinner than it is right now before we add in our cheese. Our onions are looking still great. So right now I'm gonna turn the burner off. We're gonna continue adding our chicken stock until we get to the consistency we want. There we go. I'm liking this more. Great, and then I'm adding mozzarella cheese, about a cup. Oh, we forgot to add our salt. We're gonna add our salt. Check out our onions, delicious. Yum. Who doesn't love a good cheese sauce? What is not to like about this? Look at how, yes. Woo! Yum. More salt. But don't forget, we have a lot of spices and all the rest, so this doesn't have to be like the most high spice situation. And you always want to taste each part and season each part. Yeah, that's delicious. Okay, this is done. We're gonna set it aside. Okay, this is exactly how I want my caramelized onions looking. They smell delicious. They're very brown. They look great. Have our 3 parts happening. We're gonna spray our pan. Great. Then we're gonna get to layering, and my onions look so good. I want to add just a wee bit of balsamic vinegar, and this is a vinegar, not a glaze. Like there's balsamic glaze and there's balsamic vinegar, and I don't want glaze because the onions are already so sweet. You don't want to overdo it. My process is going to be to layer all the potatoes in, onions on top, and then sauce on top of the onions. So here's our potatoes. They look delicious. And we're gonna put our onions on top. I am just gonna scoop them out of the oil that's currently in there. I don't want all of that to end up in our potatoes. Onion, 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 great. Sauce time. Okay, so this is what we're looking like. It looks like mashed potatoes, but I promise it's a delicious cheesy sauce. We're just gonna get this smoothed out here. And it seems thick, but in the oven, don't forget it's going to become warm and loosen up quite a bit. Okay, that looks delicious. It's going in the oven at 425 we're gonna check it after about 70 minutes. Ignore all the random things we've got going on over here. I've taken my potatoes out of the oven. They are fork tender and they smell delicious, and they've got this nice crusty top. It's gonna be great. We're gonna chop off some chives to garnish them with, and then we're gonna be rocking and rolling. We'll give them a taste and see what we think. Got a lot going on in this cutting board here. Cool, we've got our chives. We're tossing them on top. Now we're gonna taste it, and I think I'm gonna do that classic where I taste it too soon. It's gonna burn my mouth. But it looks and smells so good. Does anyone else do like the tongue test where you touch it with your tongue and then see if it's cool enough to eat? Like, still pretty warm. You can smell the rosemary and the sweetness from the onions. Not to toot my own horn, but that is so good. The sauce is delicious. Do not skip caramelizing the onions because those like seal the deal. I'm sorry to be eating directly out of this pan before Easter. Don't hate me, family. Look, steam is coming off. I just want to eat the whole thing. I definitely burned my mouth. So good. Let me know if you make them. Subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment. What you think? Would you do something differently? Let me know. I hope you enjoy them.